The Democratic Alliance has issued a statement calling for a boycott of all Gupta family-owned media houses. ANN7, The New Age, are two media houses where the Gupta family has their stake. The statement from the DA says, and I quote, "Over the last few months, it has become patently clear that not only TNA but also ANN7 are nothing more than Gupta and pro-Zuma propaganda mouthpieces. We also call on South Africans to discern the fake Gupta news from real news and caution South Africans that consuming Gupta media risks falling prey to propaganda." The catch here is DA has been comfortably ignoring and choosing not to react to the sensational exposés on the Treasury misappropriation of funds. Just a recap, if you have just joined. The DA calling for all South Africans to boycott Gupta family-owned media houses, that is the ANN7 and the New Age, which are two of the media houses where the Gupta family has their stake. The DA has actually sent out a statement, and I'll just go through it for you very quickly, and I quote, "Over the last few months, it has become patently clear that not only the TNA, that is the New Age, but also the ANN7 are nothing more than Gupta and pro-Zuma propaganda mouthpieces. We call on South Africans to discern the fake Gupta news from real news and caution South Africans that consuming Gupta media risks falling prey to propaganda." Joining us now on the phone line is William Bird, Director of the Media Monitoring. Very good afternoon to you, William. Thank you for joining us. Your reaction to the statement from the Democratic Alliance calling on South Africans to choose what media house whose news to consume, rather, going forward?
Hi, good afternoon. Well, it's a bit of a muddled press release because on some level it's the headline of their press release seems to be calling on all South Africans to boycott, but if you look into the substance of it, it appears to be saying that they're calling on various state entities not to be funding particular activities, and they make reference to some of the New Age business breakfasts and the like. I mean, I think it's a pretty extraordinary thing for a political party to be calling for a boycott of certain media. We know that when the ANC has done similar things, they've been condemned for doing so, and I think that that's broadly speaking appropriate in the current context. That said, we are living in pretty extraordinary times anyway.
It's a bit weird, isn't it, for a political party to be calling on South Africans to boycott a certain media house? I mean, who's to say what is propaganda and what isn't? But going forward, does this not infringe on South Africans' right to be able to hear whatever news that they want to hear? And does it not insult their intelligence as to what they can discern as fake news and real news from themselves?
Well, no, look, I think that any political party is entitled to express a view about what media what they think of different media. We know that some factions within the ANC, for example, accuse other media of being, white monopoly capital and not having any legitimacy. And so, to that extent, this is not any different from that kind of claim. I think that where this is unusual is a call on people to boycott. That said, I think that we do need to interrogate, state resources being utilized on different media, and to that extent, I think that we should be demanding that we know how our government does spend money on all media spend, not just on the New Age or ANN7.
William, thank you for your insight. Joining us for more reactions, Professor Sipho Siepe is on the phone line. Professor Siepe, thank you for joining us. Very good afternoon to you. DA calls for a boycott on all media houses that are associated with the Gupta family. I assume this is unprecedented?
Well, there are four issues that one must put on the table. First, there's an attempt by the DA to divert attention from their own internal challenges. So what you do is that when you're faced with that internal crisis, you try to find a way of dealing with other issues and putting them on the table, thinking that your crisis will dissipate. So that's the first thing, and that's why the timing of this announcement must be seen. The second thing is really a party that says we are liberals and we are also constitutionalists. We believe in the advancement of the Constitution that talks about the freedom of expression. And it's very important for people to understand that when you talk about the freedom of expression, you're not talking about the expression of views that you agree with. It also means having to allow a situation where there are views that you do not agree with. And that is a real test of one's commitment to the Constitution. So we see here a failure. But it doesn't come as a surprise because we also saw that the leader of the DA himself does not understand the constitution of the DA. So the issue of advancement of the Constitution is an issue at stake. The third element is what you see here. It's a form of political intolerance from a party that always wants to present itself as a party of Democrats. So what you see is an element of desperation, but a worrying tendency towards intolerance. And related to that is the closing of platforms. Because if we start going that way, then we'll have to identify any platform that we do not like and then make a case why it should be closed. So this is something that I find interesting by people who tell you that they are supporters of constitutional democracy, but they want to undermine the very tenets of that democracy. And the last point is, it is also possible that the ANN7 as well as the New Age they are both succeeding in presenting a counter-hegemonic narrative. Because what you see in this country is what you may call a groupthink, that the media in this country seems to be behaving as if they have one editor, but simply different titles, because they seem to be copying each other in terms of what to cover. So when you have a media that seems to suggest that there might be another way of seeing things, they are offended by that. It is not a behavior that is not, it's a behavior that is similar to the behavior that you find in business, where business tries to make sure that the barriers for entry are so high, where some people see themselves as gatekeepers. So what you have here is an insult to South Africans to say, we want to keep certain ideas away from you. But it's also an insult to their intelligence. South Africans should be allowed to access as much media, as much alternative perspectives, and they can make that decision for themselves. But here you have a party that arrogates itself the wisdom of God to say, we'll determine, and we want to determine what should be out there. But they are not alone in that. You also see those elements in the ANC. You see those elements also in some civil society. You see those elements in some other political groupings. You also have seen and heard those elements being attacked by some people within the unions. So it is very worrying that, it's a real test of a democracy. Democracy gets tested all the time, and this is one test, and the DA seems to be failing in that.
Sipho Siepe, thank you so much for that very broad analysis. We certainly appreciate it. We have more people on the phone line wanting to speak on this. The national spokesperson for the Forum of Journalists for Transformation. We have Ayanda Mutluli on the phone line. Ayanda, very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. It is one thing for political parties to not agree with whatever news is broadcast by media houses, but to go to the extent of actually asking a whole entire nation to choose what media house to snooze to consume and which one not to. What does this say to you?
Look, I mean, for me, it says that the DA is being really, really authoritarian, and they have no business, dictating what type of news that people should consume, and they're also going against the principles of media diversity. I mean, if you look at our media landscape in South Africa, the media is monopolized by a few publications in the print industry, and also, if you look at broadcast as well, there's only a few dedicated news channels and a few talk radio shows that are available to the populace in the country. So then that brings their notion of media diversity into question, and especially in an industry that continues to stifle black voters. We need media diversity now more than ever. And then also if you look at how much is spent on other publications. I mean, I saw the statement that Ayanda Dlodlo spent about R1 million, on a new age breakfast. We need to, if they're going to use that as an example, they need to look at what other monies are spent on other media houses. How much do other government departments spend on other media houses and other publications before making that one-sided assumption? So basically, I mean, South Africa is a democratic country, and the government can choose where it wants to advertise. That is government's prerogative. And as the FJT, we continue to stress that government needs to realign its ad spend and look at black-owned publications and channel its ad spend to black-owned publications and people and publications that have a fresh voice and look at things in a different way and cover news in a fair way. When we look at issues that surrounded the Times Media Group, for instance, when the CEO Andrew Bonomo was being investigated for insider trading. Nobody called for the boycott of Times Media. And also, if you look at the Democratic Alliance and the principles that they adhere to, you look at the media industry in the United Kingdom, where News of the World was shut down because they were using underhanded tactics and illegal means to get stories. So claiming that ANN7 is publishing fake news, it's also damaging to the reputation of the journalists who work very, very hard for their stories. And frankly, it's a very disappointing statement. And I believe that the company should consider taking legal action against such statements, because it boils down to the fact that the journalists themselves who come up with these stories, who really work hard for these stories, are now being painted in a light that is very, very, very negative and career limiting. So yeah, I mean, there are also many instances of media houses in South Africa where they use dubious analysts to come up with fake numbers and other things. So yeah, I mean, that's what I can get from all of this, and frankly, we really, really need to start protecting journalists who want to branch away from the status quo and who want to challenge the monopolies that are dominating.
Absolutely, Ayanda. Thank you so much. Good of you to join us for your insight. We certainly appreciate it. Ayanda Dempluli joining us on the phone line. We're trying to get more voices on this. We also have the BLF President, Andile Mqitama, joining us over the phone line. Very good afternoon to you, Andile. Thank you for joining us. The intolerance, do you think perhaps it has been shown by the Democratic Alliance? Also, is it a threat to our democracy that we should have political parties dictating to South Africans which media house to listen to, or which newspapers to read in a democratic South Africa? Discuss this issue further. Joining me now is the resident political analyst, Sifiso Mahlangu, who is in the newsroom. Sifiso, very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. I see you've been jotting down a lot of points there. The issue of intolerance, of political parties, just, not wanting to hear a different voice and going so far as to tell South Africans which media house news to consume and which one not to. Is there any other avenue that the DA could have perhaps pursued if they have a problem with the way certain media houses report on whatever news it is or whatever stories that it is that they would be broadcasting?
Once again, Audrey, good afternoon to you and good afternoon to the viewers of ANN7. The relationship between political parties and media organizations has never been an easy one. Any political party since the existence of democratic or Marxist politics would like any media organization to sing from its own hymn book. They want to feed you their stories, and often politicians want to use media organizations to perpetuate an agenda that they want to set out, and not an altercating agenda or an opposing voice. So I think the reality between just the media in general and politicians is never an easy one. And this is the case all over the world. And in fact, many political analysts and political scholars in the US claim that that is the reason Ms. Hillary Clinton lost the elections, because they really boycotted some media organizations, and then it was seen that CNN perpetuated her frame. Meanwhile, Mr. Donald Trump was sort of building his weight within the branches. So when there's a multiplicity of voices, many news agencies seem often to be too vociferous for political parties. In a country such as South Africa, however, where we come from one state agency, one news agency that has led South Africa through the days of apartheid into democracy. And now, because there's about three big news agencies that have come into the country, it's not easy for some political organizations, some political parties to accept new narratives and a new voice, because now there's contradicting voices. Now there's opposing ideologies.
An alternative voice.
Now there's an alternative voice, and it's never easy to accept. However, it is a losing game for any political party to claim a boycott on a news agency, because if you're asking people not to watch a particular channel, you are losing the opportunity to woo some of the listeners or viewers. You're losing an audience, because how else will they hear you? The idea of politics, Audrey, is to always campaign. And politicians always campaign, and they do it wonderfully. And politics would not happen if people did not campaign and attempt to woo crowds. Now, if you have a radio platform or a television platform or a newspaper platform, you then have an ability to campaign, and politicians come onto that trend line and campaign and send out their voices and woo their clientele or their voters. But if you shut down many newspapers or many television stations, you then don't have a platform to send your ideas or then propaganda out into the public domain. So it is an animal that comes back to bite you. So I think political parties should just aspire to say, if this particular news agency doesn't tell stories the way I would like to, maybe I must change the stories that I put out there, or I must find another group who can perhaps perpetuate an ideology and a nuance that I enjoy.
Right.
But to call for a boycott sort of reminds South Africa of the days of apartheid, to say, you'll tell the news like how I want to, or we'll call for a shutdown on you. That's a very stringent process, and I don't think South Africans want to be reminded of those days. So I really believe this is an animal that will come back to bite the Democratic Alliance.
Right.
Because the opposing viewers will continue to watch the channel and continue to buy the newspapers. But those who, by a fathom of chance, follow the DA's new line to boycott
let's come back to that point in a few
will
minutes.
just lose out on the debate that is affecting this nation.
Right. We have on the phone line now the MKMVA chairperson, Mr. Kebi Mapatswe. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Your reaction with the Democratic Alliance and the stance that they have taken to dictate to South Africa which media house to listen to, or which media house news to consume. What is your reaction to that?
Thank you very much, ma'am, and the viewers. That's true reflection of the anti-ANC, through reporting by the independent print and news channels. AN7 has been reporting the truth about our country, what is happening. Now, the DA, because it is supporting these other channels like your ENCA and other print media which are controlled by the big white monopoly capital, they have been reporting propaganda against the African National Congress. So the AN7 has been reporting very fairly. I compare AN7 to Russia today because it is reporting the facts, it is reporting the truth. Now that it is exposing corruption and it is exposing wrong things that are happening that have been reported, it is now going to be attacked. It's the beginning that is going to be attacked. But as MKMVA will call on our people to watch ANN7 because it's the true TV station that is reporting the facts and that is analyzing correctly, and it calls everybody's different views to come and express their views, unlike other channels that are openly biased. They are against the government of the day.
Well, thank you so much for your insights. Kebi Mapatswe there, MKMVA chairperson, joining us over the phone line. More reactions. I understand we do have Andile Mqitama now on the phone line. Very good afternoon to you, Andile. I do hope that you can hear me now. Your reaction with the DA as rather, what shall we say, intolerance of other media houses and having a different narrative or an alternative voice to what the status quo has been in South Africa with the media houses that have been there since the beginning of democracy and the owners that have been there